Hey, what's going on, everyone? So I got a new location today because my friend out of nowhere called me up and invited me to stay at a beach house for a little while. And so I'm going to be here for the next day or so. But I still wanted to pump out some videos.
Supreme victory!
So today I'm going to be talking about our favorite con artist, Anita Sarkeesian. It's been a long time. She was actually the topic of my first few videos. I don't know if any of you have made it that far back, but my channel has changed a lot since then. So I thought it would be good, to bring her back because she just spewed out some more garbage. So let's break it down.
At the 2014 Electronic Entertainment Expo, the game studio Ubisoft debuted a trailer showcasing the cooperative mode in their upcoming game Assassin's Creed Unity. One thing viewers quickly noticed about the trailer was that all the assassins in it were male. When questioned about why female characters weren't an option in this mode, the game's creative director said that although there were originally plans to allow for female assassins, the development team couldn't add them because it would require double the animations, double the voices, and double the visual assets.
Well, I think that's pretty fair to say that it's going to double the work. I mean, especially, say you had plans and then maybe you're like, oh, okay, is the timing going to be right? Are we going to have some time to do this? Now, obviously from the very beginning, they probably should have made time if they did really plan to have women in the game as playable characters. Now, if any of you actually played this game, you would see how much even more of a disaster would have been if they actually did make that an option. Because when that game released, I actually don't buy releases. I never pre-order games except for when I bought the Xbox One. It came with Assassin's Creed Unity, and it was garbage. It was so broken. There were so many bugs at certain places I couldn't even play. Like, there's some of the crowd looks like they were just fucking standing around moshing and shit. It didn't make any damn sense. So just imagine what would have happened if they would have tried to shove some girls in there last minute because of, there might be a possible backlash. It would have been even more of a disaster because that game kind of tanked them.
Meanwhile, a level designer on the game stated that including female assassins would have meant recreating 8,000 animations on a new skeleton.
So in all fairness, it sounds like, Ubisoft was actually trying to really just, hit home and drive home their point with that. To say something like 8,000, that just sounds kind of like ridiculous. So I don't know if that's actually like 100% accurate or anything, but I think that is like, come on guys, just tone it down a little bit. You can just own up and just say, hey, we ran out of time. We considered having women. We kind of fucked up. No women. Sorry.
These comments led to an explosion of controversy and criticism on Twitter, with many people using the sarcastic hashtag "women are too hard to animate."
It's obviously not about women being too hard to animate. We know that. There's plenty of women in the game itself. As a matter of fact, there's too many people in the game, and I think that was actually a reason why the thing was so shitty at launch, because they try to make it so realistic that there were just so many fucking problems. But it ain't about being too hard to animate. It's just about timing. I guess I want to save the subject for broken games, AAA games at release being completely shitty and unfixed and they have to patch it later. I'll save that for another video.
A number of experienced game developers joined the chorus of voices calling out the absurdity of Ubisoft's claims. Animator Jonathan Cooper, who had previously worked on Assassin's Creed 3 for Ubisoft, tweeted, "I would estimate this to be a day or two's work, not a replacement of 8,000 animations."
Okay, but a day or two's work is a big deal. These people are under a strict schedule, and obviously in Ubisoft, how they do things, they don't want to extend stuff at all. That's why they keep releasing garbage. That's why Assassin's Creed Unity was so shit at launch, because they didn't do the responsible thing. It was like, you know what, we should just take like maybe an extra 6 months to just make this game exactly the way we want it,
And Manveer Hare of BioWare summed up what Ubisoft was actually saying. "We don't really care to put the effort in to make a woman assassin."
I mean, technically that's true. It's, because they probably weighed the pros and cons and they're like, okay, should we do it? Or is it going to really benefit us overall? Like, honestly, I think it would have hurt them more if they would have tried to make the women female characters, because it would have pushed their schedule back and they wouldn't have been able to focus on probably debugging a few things here and there. And it might have even been worse at launch,
Ubisoft's disregard for female character options didn't stop with Unity. Also at E3 2014, the director of Far Cry 4 admitted to a similar issue with that game's online co-op mode, saying, "We were inches away from having you be able to select a girl or a guy as your co-op buddy." Again, the excuse for why this option wasn't available was that it would be just too much work. And yet, again, what they were really saying was that they just couldn't be bothered to do the work it would have taken to provide that option.
Like I said, business decisions, pros, cons, will it be worth it? You got to look into those factors. You got to take those to account to the situation. And, we already know the results and everything that happened with these guys.
Though it's worth pointing out that in the 2 years since this controversy, Ubisoft has made clear efforts to improve the representation of women in the core Assassin's Creed games, with the most recent entry, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, giving the option to play as Evie Fry through much of the campaign.
Yeah, but did that really even help them? I mean, that game didn't do very well because Assassin's Creed Unity was so shitty. Now, just remember, like what I was saying before, if they would have tried to add more stuff into Assassin's Creed Unity, it probably would have did even worse, and then Syndicate would have been even worse. And actually, who knows? If they would have added female characters in Unity and it would have tanked and stuff because of all the bugs and stuff, they might have taken women out of Syndicate, maybe not even consider doing this because they're like, oh, maybe what are the reasons why it did so shitty is because there was a female protagonist. I mean, I'm just saying the way that business people think, not the way that logical people think. People that just, well, I guess business is logical, but what I'm saying is how just people think with how about feelings and stuff. Like, this is about money and business. So although it was good that they had a female lead, I didn't even play. A lot of people didn't play because they were just done with Assassin's Creed at that point because Unity was such a massive failure.
Of course, Ubisoft weren't and aren't the only ones with this apathetic attitude towards female inclusion. In fact, not doing the necessary work to include women has long been the norm in the video game industry. The FIFA soccer series, which had its first entry in 1993, took over 20 years before finally introducing female teams in FIFA 16.
I'm in the game. We're in the game.
Okay, but it's because of popularity. It's because of supply and demand. I mean, you're smart enough to know this, Anita. It's not just because of a woman thing. It's just because no one really pays attention to that. And now it's, women's football or soccer is a lot more popular, but it's still not nearly as popular as the men's. We know this, so obviously including that now is like, okay, I think this would be beneficial now. But back in the day, no one was really asking for that. Such a small minority that it's like, okay, we would have spent so much money to cater to people that would have made up like a few thousand sales. Like, that's not smart.
And it took 10 years for Call of Duty to introduce female soldiers into its competitive multiplayer, with 2013's Call of Duty Ghosts. The long-running Battlefield franchise, on the other hand, has still never allowed for playable female characters in its multiplayer modes. There's an important conversation to be had about the ways in which military shooters work to glorify violence, but as long as we're going to have such games, it's actually better when they include female combatants in them.
I'm gonna be honest, when it comes to first-person shooters, I don't care if I'm a guy or girl or an alien or just a piece of shit, like a pile of shit holding a gun. It doesn't matter to me. I can't even see my character at all. I'll even argue saying something in Halo, like, I didn't even care about editing my skins and editing my armor and stuff like that because the only people that can see it are other people. And I'm like, oh, well, who cares? I'm just going to go blank slate and I'm going to shoot some people. I mean, that's what it's about, right?
Now, you might be asking yourself, doesn't having female enemies in a game perpetuate violence against women? And that's a good and fair question.
I'm pretty sure from all the old videos you've done, the answer would be obviously yes, but please tell me why your opinions have changed.
When we refer to depictions of violence against women, we're generally discussing situations in which women are being attacked or victimized specifically because they are women, reinforcing a perception of women as victims. Such scenarios are very different from those in which women are presented as active participants. In the Street Fighter games, for instance, when Chun-Li and Ryu fight each other, this isn't considered violence against women because the two characters are presented as being on more or less equal footing, and because Chun-Li is an active participant who isn't being targeted or attacked specifically because she's a woman.
Damn, Anita, I'm going to have to say that's actually pretty damn logical. That's actually a fair assessment. Maybe are you coming around or something? Like, are you actually going to be somebody that's going to join the skeptics, and you're going to actually be able to play video games and enjoy them? I'm actually kind of excited about this.
Similarly, the waves of male attackers players face in so many games are typically not passive victims. They are active participants in the conflict, and importantly, the violence against them isn't gendered. Players fight with them because they're on the opposing side, not specifically because they are men.
Yes, 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 yes.
Unfortunately, when female combatants do appear in games, they're often presented in sexualized ways which inevitably lend the player's attacks an air of gendered violence. In Saints Row III's so-called Horde mode, for instance, players must defeat waves of sexualized women, sometimes beating them to death with a large purple dildo.
Yeah, but aren't those women attacking you too? I mean, just because they're sexualized, aren't they still on a level playing field? Aren't they trying to kill you as well? So isn't it okay that you're beating the fuck out of them? Sexual clothing aside, I mean, it was their decision to wear sexual clothing. I mean, because obviously they're willing participants willing to try to kill you. I mean, so you have to think of it in that scenario. And so that's kind of fucked up. What you just said before made perfect sense, and then here you go, just spewing some bullshit right after.
In 2009's game Wolfenstein, the Elite Guard are a special all-female enemy unit whose absurd uniforms sexualize not only the female characters themselves, but also players' acts of violence against them. Similarly, in 2012's Hitman Absolution, the Saints are a special unit of female assassins who wear latex fetish gear underneath nuns' habits. It's a ludicrous design choice that is transparently intended to sexualize these enemies.
But they're warriors too. They're trying to kill you as well. Doesn't that just go against what you were just saying? They are willing participants. They are fighting against you. So when you shoot the fuck out of them, it's fair game. It's on a level playing field. Isn't that female empowerment? Isn't that feminism? What the fuck? Yeah, okay, alright. Sometimes I forget that you're a stupid fucking con artist, you know?
And in Metal Gear Solid 4, the Beauty and Beast unit is an enemy group made up of 5 female soldiers that players fight over the course of the game. At certain points during these encounters, each boss sheds her armor and appears as a woman in form-fitting attire.
It's all so funny.
If players then avoid the Beauty's deadly embrace for several minutes without killing or neutralizing her, the game transports them to a white room where equipping the camera results in the character making sultry poses.
Oh no, sexy female characters being sexy, how awful. It's so wrong to have a sexy body and want to flaunt it. Oh no.
Funny how that doesn't happen with the male bosses in the game. Whenever female combatants are dressed in sexualizing attire, it sets them noticeably apart from other enemy units. It's intended to make the player's encounters with them sexually titillating, and that's particularly troubling considering that those encounters often involve fighting and killing those characters. Violence against female characters should never be presented as sexy.
I don't think violence against women has ever been presented as sexy. I think you're the only one that's actually just implying that's what people are trying to do when they make sexy female characters. And furthermore, what happened to the main point of you saying that video game characters are too hard to animate? You just fucking went way into left field for this shit, man. This is...
The way for games to handle female combatants is not to present them as sexualized treats for the player. Rather, it's to present them simply as combatants who happen to be women fighting alongside their male counterparts on equal footing. For all of its many, many problems, one thing BioShock Infinite did right was to include non-sexualized female officers on Columbia's police force. And in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, both the player's gang and the enemy gang have rank-and-file female members who fight alongside the men.
I just don't get your point though, because you yourself have pointed out games that have plenty of women that aren't sexualized, and I don't. You basically what you're saying is you just want some type of Sharia law where the women are all covered up and then they can be in a level playing field. And I don't mean Sharia law specifically, because you know obviously the women wouldn't be able to do anything. But I'm just saying to the point where you just want them to be completely gender neutral, you know, just wearing some normal fitting clothes or whatever, and then you can kill them and then everything's fine. I'm like, why the fuck do you care so much when it's just a goddamn video game? And yes, I'm talking to you, Anita, specifically because we all know that you don't give a fuck about video games. It's been proven time and time again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
This is a photo of me at age 10 playing Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo. So I've been playing games for quite a while. I'm going to show you a remix that I just finished this weekend and no one else has seen. One person has seen it. It's a soundtrack of one song, except I'm doing video games. So it's not exactly a fandom. I'm not a fan of video games. I actually had to learn a lot about video games in the process of making this. I've only contextualized it in a way to critique male domination in our media. And also video games, like I would love to play video games, but I don't want to go around shooting people and ripping off their heads, and it's just gross. So hence this is my response to that.
You're such a comfortable life.
Despite the presence of female combatants in games like these, there's still a tendency for game studios to treat female representation as some kind of extravagant goal, rather than simply treating it as standard in the same way they handle male representation. The excuse that I hear most often for the absence of female combatants in games is that players wouldn't believe it.
They would. Wait. So you're telling me that a video game, a fake video game fantasy where you kill the shit out of people. Usually bodies disappear after you kill them, where you have a bunch of fucking magazines all over your body, just, I don't know, maybe storing them up your ass because you have so much ammo, where you have swords that'll just slice through people like fucking, not slice through people like butter on first impact, you know? You're telling me that they think that having those women in there will make it unbelievable? Like, they're just not gonna believe it? Who's saying that shit?
But games, even ones that draw on historical locations or events like the Assassin's Creed series, create their own worlds and set the tone for what we will or won't believe. To participate in the worlds games create, we happily accept time travel, superpowers, ancient alien civilizations, the ability to carry infinite items, the idea that eating a hot dog can instantly heal your wounds, and a million other fictions. It's certainly not too much to ask that these fictional worlds give us believable female combatants, too.
You should be smart enough to realize that if people will accept that shit, then obviously that's not the case. They're not saying that. I don't know who you're talking to. I don't know if you just made that shit up. You made that shit up.
The media we engage with has a powerful impact on our ideas of what's believable and what's not. Games like Assassin's Creed Syndicate demonstrate that when the existence of female combatants is presented as straightforward, normal, and believable, players have no problem believing it. And they shouldn't, since unlike those magical healing hot dogs I mentioned, female combatants actually exist.
Alright, Anita, that wasn't your worst video, but that was still shitty. Had a lot of shitty points. You were just, pulling stuff out of your ass. But, as far as the subject goes, where you started talking about, putting women, we need to put more women into video games, I agree to a certain extent. Like, I don't mind is actually what I'm really saying. To me, I'm kind of indifferent. Like, the way that I play video games now are fine. I mean, I play a lot of fighting games and there's always women in there. They're not always sexualized. Sometimes they are, but I'm really interested in their fucking, their skills, what they do, All in all, I think it's stupid to try to force video game characters to change and try to make them so damn inclusive where it becomes an inconvenience, I think the best solution for you is to play games that have plenty of women in them, or play games that actually do things on a level playing field. Like, say, the company BioWare, they're very good at that stuff. So I would say play games that cater to you. Meanwhile, I'll just play games that are fucking fun. All right, so thank you for the new bullshit, Anita. I'm glad that you pumped out another video, and hopefully that you'll finish this project in the next year or so. And then the next project that you took other people's money from, you'll finish that maybe by 2020. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video, and if you dig it, please hit the like button and share it. You can hit that subscribe button as well. And I want to give a big shout out to my patrons: Hannah, Paul, Ian, Jason, Ramon, Peter, Bex, Naja, Robert, Joseph, Jacob, Misty, and Zan. Thank you all so much for being a patron. If you guys want to be a patron, you can see the link right there. It would really help me out. I appreciate that. So you all have a wonderful day, and Papa bless.